So this video is going to be about creating and deleting files. We just did one about directories, and now files are directories aren't very important unless you have files, right? The files are where your actual data is stored. Directories are basically just ways to organize your files and organize other directories, right? So we're in my home folder, right, ls, and we see we've got some files in here. If I want to, or these are just directories, if I wanted to create a file, the easiest way is with the touch command. And I can create the file touch.txt. Okay, so this is the file name, and then this is part of the file name, but it's the extension. Okay, and this is meant to be used as a tool to look at the file name and try to figure out what kind of file it is. Okay, but this is something that the human defines, right? So it could be completely wrong. Just because it has a particular extension doesn't mean it's actually that data type. Okay, it's entirely based on the file name, so it can be off. All right, so touch creates this file, touch.txt. If I type ls, we see that that created my file, and it created an empty file. It doesn't have anything in it. ls-l, and it lists out all the directories, and here's our touch.txt file, right? And notice the directory bit is a 0. It's not a 1, so we see the hyphen. Right, so this is a file. We know that to be a file. And also notice the time here. So that's 9:53. So we'll take a look here, and we can use the date command real quick to look at the time. Right, so we've got 9:54, so that's good. It's 9:54 now. I'm going to use the touch command, and what the touch command actually does, why it's called touch, is because it modifies the file, but it doesn't change anything. The only thing it changes is the modified time. So this should change to 9:54 or 55 probably by the time I run it. Okay, so first let's look again, ls-l, to make sure it's still 9:53. All right, and now we're going to run the touch command again, and we're going to run it on the same file. Now we type ls-l, and it's now updated. The content of the file did not change, just the last modified time. So it's just a quick touch to the file. And one of the benefits of the touch command is if the file doesn't exist, it creates it. Okay, so touch is just kind of a nice, easy way to create an empty file. That's one way to create an empty file. Another way we can create a file is using nano. So nano is a text editor. All right, so we can use the command nano space and then the path to the file that we want to create. Okay, nano.txt, and when I press enter, nano is going to take over my whole terminal. Okay, it's kind of like we're using terminal applications which send text to the server, and then we get a response. It's actually run on the server, and the results are sent back to text to us. Okay, so this is kind of like a full screen application. You know, some applications on your desktop take over the whole screen, and until you're finished with the application, you don't have access to your desktop or anything anymore, right? It's a similar type of deal with the nano program. It takes over your entire terminal screen, and we see everything changes. And this is a text editor, simple text, right? We've got shortcuts down here, and we'll go into all of this. Basically, this just allows us to type some stuff. Right, nano's cool. Save it. Control O, and because I had not created this file before, it's going to ask me here, do I want to? Am I sure this is the file name that I want to use? Right, and so it is, and so I press enter. So that was Control O. These are the shortcuts. So that's write out to disk. You can also do Control S for the same functionality. That will save the file. All right, and then to exit nano is caret, which is Control X. So Control S, Control X. That saves it, and then you exit nano. We type ls-l. Right, we see nano.txt, and we see that there is a 0 on the directory bit, so it's a file. All right, that's good. What other ways can we create files? Well, we know the echo command. That's kind of fun, right? Whatever we type in here, hello. We can, this normally, when I execute this command, it prints to the terminal, right? but I can redirect that output. Instead of having it print to the terminal, I can have it print to a file. Okay, so this one is called echo.txt. And when I press enter, we're not going to see hello on the screen, right? That's the normal behavior. We redirected that output. So instead of it showing up on the terminal, it now shows up in this file. And we can use nano and we can look at that to see. So let's look inside echo.txt. And sure, there's our hello, right? That's what the echo command did. We said echo hello, and the whole point of the echo command is to just print data to the terminal screen. But then we redirected that output from the terminal to this file. Right? So Control X, we'll close that. So what else can we do with this echo command? We can add additional things to it, right? So I can say echo more text. Okay. Now, if I just did the greater than symbol by itself, it would delete anything that was already in the file, right? I don't want to do that this time. I'm going to add to the file, so I use two greater than symbols, right? So by using two, it keeps the original hello, and then it adds more text, right? And I can use the cat command to quickly look and see what's inside of a file, right? So cat shows me what's inside of echo.txt without having to open up nano, right? And sure enough, we've got both of the items, right? I could open up nano and look at it, and that's fine too. Echo.txt, and we'll see we have both of the items. Okay, nano lets you edit the file, whereas cat does not. It just shows you what's inside. So cat echo.txt, right? So we use cat all the time. So the important bit there is the greater than symbol. It will create the file if it doesn't exist, and it will also, if it does exist, it will delete the contents. Two greater than symbols will create the file if it doesn't exist, but it will not delete the contents. It will just add to it. Okay, so we can prove that, and we can do one more thing. We can echo, and I'll say, stomp, and this is going to stomp out whatever's in echo.txt. Alright, and now we say echo, or cat echo, and sure enough, the hello and more text is gone. Right? One thing that you'll see me do here is I'm using quotation marks. Quotation marks are a special character in the shell. Okay, they help you do things like create files with spaces in them, for example. All right, so if I wanted to make a file with a space in it, I could say touch file, say my file.txt. Okay, the command is touch, and then this is what I want to be the file name, but this is not going to work. Then we're going to have a problem here because on the command line, remember, arguments are separated by spaces. So the touch command is going to see this as one argument and then this as a separate argument. So it's going to create two files, one named my and one named file.txt. I run that command, say ls, and sure enough, we have my, right? This has no extension. Files don't necessarily have to have extensions. It's just something that we commonly do so we can identify them, right? So my is just a file, the name is my, and then we have another file, file.txt. Okay, well that's not what we wanted. So what we have to do is remove those. We're going to remove file.txt, and we want to remove my. Okay, so how can we make a file with a space in it? Well, there's a couple different ways we can do it. The easiest, again, is with the touch command and my, but I have to tell the shell somehow that I want to include the next space, all as part of one argument instead of two separate ones. So there's two ways to do that. One way is we can use the escape character, backslash. That is also a special character to the shell. The backslash states, it tells the shell basically, oh, hang on a second, whatever character I type next, I actually want to be included in this argument. Okay, so if it's a space, then that means, okay, this space does not mean we're moving on to a new argument like it normally means in the shell. The space means it's still, because we have the backslash, the space is still part of this argument. So I say file.txt. Okay, And so again, the backslash is called the escape character. And so this should all be one argument. And when it finally creates the file, you will not see that backslash. That backslash is just part of the shell syntax. All right, so ls-l. It did show up the backslash. That's interesting. ls remove my file. Well, so the other way we can add a space is with quotation marks, and we'll take a look at what that looks like here, and we'll see what happened to our backslash issue here. So if I want to create a file, so I just removed that file, right? If I want to create one, touch, and then I'm going to use quotation marks. Because I'm using quotation marks, now I can use as many spaces as I want inside here. My file.txt. Right, I can use a bunch, and the shell basically says, oh, I have quotation marks. That means anything inside the quotation marks is part of my file name until I see another quotation mark, right? And there are some exceptions because you might want a quotation mark in your file, but generally that's a bad idea. All right, so we look at that, and yes. Okay, so the reason you see these slashes is because the shell is listing out the file the way it sees it, right? But the actual file name is just a space here. Okay, so we say ls-l. We can look at these items, right? So it represents these individual items. It goes ahead and shows that escape character, but technically that escape character does not exist in the file name. Okay, because we can prove that by saying nano, and let's open up my file and type something in it, right? Test, and we're going to save this file and exit. All right, and so I can prove that that backslash is not actually in this file name by doing something like this, cat, and I want to see what's inside of my backslash space file, and that I might have to double escape that one. My file is backslash good.txt. So in this case, and all the shells are a little bit different, so this might not quite work as I expected, but I think what happens here is this backslash, because it's inside of quotes, it's no longer the escape sequence, so I think it's saying a backslash is in my file. So we can run that, and there it shows no such file or directory. Well, we know that we just put some text in here, so if the backslashes were actually part of the file name, it would have displayed something. So instead we can do cat my file is good.txt, right? No backslashes, and sure enough that prints out our test. Okay, so as you can see, the escape sequence, it's something that comes up all the time in computer science, but it does make naming your files a little bit tricky and a little bit hard to read. So my advice to you is, especially if you're a novice user, avoid spaces. Instead, use hyphenated names, so like touch my hyphen file txt, or touch, you can use underscores, my underscore file txt. Right, and we look at that, it's a little bit better, right? We don't have all those extra backslashes. All right, so we can remove some of those items. We can also, one thing that's important to know is we can remove several items at once. So anything, say I wanted to remove anything that had a .txt file extension, right? I don't want to remove any of these directories. I just want to remove stuff that has .txt, okay? Or better yet, let's say I just want to remove items that have file.txt, right? So that'll be just these two items, right? I can use the rm and then star, which is called a globbing pattern, and it basically allows you to specify several names of files at once. And so the pattern is match any files, that's what the star means, any files that start with any characters, the star means any characters, and then end with file.txt. Okay, so the glob matches that, and the glob matches that, and they both end in file.txt. So after this command, those two should be gone using the star globbing pattern. And that's globbing, G-L-O-B-B-I-N-G. Alright, ls-l, and we see those are gone. So I can also remove all of the items that end in .txt, right? So I could say remove star.txt. Right, ls-l, so all of those files are gone. All right. So another real quick important bit about redirecting output, you can do more than just echo. Commonly you use echo something to create a file really quickly, but you can also, any command you could do this with. So the ls command, right, that just prints out data to my terminal, the contents of my current directory. So I can type ls, use the greater than symbol, and create a file called ls.txt. Okay, so this command succeeded, but it didn't print anything to the terminal. Well, if I look inside of ls.txt, those are the items, right? I can also say ls greater than, so I'm going to add to this file, let's do ls-l, so it'll list items, and this is running the ls-l command, and instead of outputting it to the terminal, I'm appending that data to ls.txt. ls.txt, we use the cat command, ls, and sure enough, there's our original ls and then ls-l. Okay, so any command you can think of, you can that outputs to the terminal, you can run that command, and instead of having output at the terminal, you can redirect that output right to a file. Okay, so that is the basics of creating and removing files. All right. So again, be very, very careful with the remove command. You might want to make backups right before you remove too much. So ls.txt. All right, there we go.